Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Andy Curry, and I am fired up, folks. Today I have on the line with me Gary Mckinsey, who has been speaking for 5 years professionally. He has some really interesting content. I can't wait for you to listen to this. Let me go over some of it. One piece of content that he speaks on that's important is how to use public speaking to market your business. The next one is advice to small business owners on maximizing tax advantages and staying out of trouble with the IRS. Don't we all want to do that? And the third one, which is Gary's favorite, which we're going to talk a lot about today, is how to mingle. Yes, M-I-N-G-L-E, mingle. And stay tuned and listen to that because you're going to really like that. Now, Gary speaks primarily in the U.S., and he is based out of California. So, Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm delighted to be on the program.
We're just as delighted to have you here, Gary. Let's talk about your public speaking business, who you're talking to. First of all, before we started the interview, we were talking about the different pieces of content you speak on, and I really like the part on how to mingle because, as I admitted to you, I've been to parties or networking events or whatever, and you feel kind of, I don't know, insecure or whatever it is, and I'll go stand in the corner and bite my glass. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's a pretty common thing, isn't it?
That's a very common thing. In fact, I've been surprised over the years when I've spoken with individuals that I would view as pretty outgoing, and yet when I find out, they say to me, "Well, I'm not going to go to a certain event because I really wouldn't know anyone." And I'm thinking, my goodness, you're missing a great opportunity to go out and meet people.
I agree.
So we talk about, okay, how do you prepare to go to an event? What are the steps you take to actually mix and mingle? And I would tell them, find the guy in the corner and go talk to him. He's lonesome. He wants to talk to you.
The one biting his glass.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we would talk about how do you approach that person and engage in a conversation.
Okay, so before you do that, I want to point something out when you're talking about gregarious people who have trouble doing that. Mm-hmm. Did you know, you probably did since you're in this, did you know that Johnny Carson, who is now dead, the famous talk show host, did you know that he had that trouble? I mean, here he could talk to anybody in front of millions of people right there at his desk, but go to a party and people thought he was being a jerk. What it was mm-hmm. he was insecure about it. He felt funny just like the next person would. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
And I knew that, and it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. You'll meet. I meet many very professional public speakers that on stage they are great. They can talk to 5,000 people and connect. And off stage, they would prefer to go. I don't want to use the word hide, but let's say they like to be out of sight. And I think, what a shame. What a shame.
That is.
They're missing that opportunity to connect with their audience. And the audience wants to connect with them.
Okay, so there's the guy in the corner. I'm mm-hmm. taking your advice, and I see him biting his glass, and I'm thinking, he's just like me. So mm-hmm. I think, okay, I'm going to go talk to him. So what do you do?
Okay. Tell the individual, number one, smile. Stand straight, smile, look at the person and make eye contact, and walk towards them, not real fast, but walk towards them, smiling, making eye contact, and extend your hand and say, "Hi, my name is Gary Mckinsey." And most people will extend their hand, they'll shake it, and they will give you their name. And that's the first part of the icebreaker right there. So they've given you their name, and then you ask them a question about the party, about the surroundings, and it could be nothing more than, "Gee, have you attended this event before?" And the person will say yes, or they'll say no. If they say no, then that gives you an opportunity to say, "Gee, I've attended it many times and I thoroughly enjoy it," Or you might say, gee, my first time also. And then you, from there you can begin to engage in a conversation as to, well, what brought you here? What's intrigued you about this?
Now, do you get that? I'm sorry. Do you have kind of a list of questions? Basic generic questions to kind of get a conversation going. Is that advised?
Absolutely. I'm going to. My generic questions are: I'm going to ask the person about the event. Have they attended it before? And say, I guess a yes or no answer. Or I may comment if there's food there. I will comment something about the food or music. I'll make a comment. I'll ask them a question about it, and the whole goal is just to engage in conversation. And usually, fairly early in the conversation, I will ask the person, "Gee, do you live in the area?" And that gives them a chance to say, "Yeah, I live in." They'll name their town, or they'll say, "No, I don't. I live in such and such." Oh, and you can here again. You can say, "Oh, that's a ways away," and you begin to talk about their town and what they do in their town. And typically, early on too, you're going to say, "Oh, and what field are you in?" You ask the person something about their line of work, and they will answer that. And you're listening for these hot button issues, something that you can engage the individual in a conversation that they feel comfortable talking about. You're not going to talk about you. You're really listening to pick up a topic that you can enter into a conversation with, and use their name. Not a lot, but you do want to use their name, and you keep smiling. You keep smiling, and you're engaging. So yes, we do have those conversations. And a lot of it is going to be based on where you are. If it's a company, if it's a company event, maybe it's someone you don't know. You've talked with them and you've asked, "Oh, what department are you in?" And you've developed the conversation. I was just recently at a meeting earlier this week. I didn't know any of the individuals. Of course, I went up. I introduced myself. I said, "Hi, my name is Gary Mckinsey." They introduced themselves. I said, "Have you attended this event before?" And we begin to enter into the conversation. And then early on, I ask, "On what company are you representing?" And then you can ask, within that company, what department? And people are pretty comfortable talking about their company, talking about their department and their business. And then there's one woman I was talking with. "Oh, have you always lived in this community?" And she says, "Oh no, I moved here 2 years ago from," and she told me where from. And it gives you a chance to say, "Oh, well, what brought you here then? What prompted you to move?" And they'll tell you their story. And the more they talk, the more you can pick up these different tidbits that you can use to further the conversation.
Okay. Now, I would imagine with your expertise behind this, you've probably made some great friends in the past just from mingling. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. Made great friends. If I'm at somewhat of a business networking event, I always, towards the end of the conversation, I like to take out my business card and just say, "May I exchange business cards with you? It helps me remember who I've met, and we'll exchange a business card."
Mm-hmm.
And then I step away. I'll step back and say, "I hope we have an opportunity to speak again." And I make a notation on the back of the business card, something about what we spoke about. And then within the next couple of days, I will follow up with an email just saying, "Thoroughly enjoyed visiting with you and talking about," and I'll make a brief reference to what we talked about so that they'll help them remember me.
Right.
So I do that.
Now that reference, emailing and following up in reference to what you talked about and such, that's powerful. I've not, a lot of people, they just kind of meet them and go on. But wouldn't you say that's pretty uncommon to do, but yet a necessity nowadays?
It is absolutely a necessity. And I'll agree, it's uncommon. A lot of people don't follow up. But that following up shows appreciation. Says to that person, "I value you, I met you, I appreciate our conversation." and it helps you be memorable. They'll remember you, and that will lead to other opportunities, just as friendships or possibly to do business.
Right. Now, when you're giving talks, speaking to groups, what kind of people are requesting the mingle speech?
I have really two groups. One is the entrepreneur. That's that person that's getting ready to get into business, or they're just into business, and they know they need to get out and actually meet people and talk to people, and they're not sure how to do it. And so we go through this process of how do you prepare to go to a social event, engage in a conversation, and a friendly conversation, not to market your business, but just to meet people and have the opportunity to exchange a business card.
Okay.
We have that group. Then the other group is individuals that just feel they need to. They're in the city they're in a new city, or they feel they need to expand their circle of acquaintances, and they're not doing this for business purposes as much as they just want to be comfortable meeting people, more for just creating their social influence.
Mm-hmm.
The process is the same. I recommend to people, I say, before you go to an event, one, you need to know why you're going. Why are you going? Number two, research the event. Have some idea of who is apt to be there and what type of interest might those individuals have. Then arrive early, not late, early. Arrive at that event early so you can begin to feel comfortable. And for individuals, especially if I'm speaking with an entrepreneur or a new public speaker, I'll tell them, look, be the unofficial greeter. Almost anything you attend, there's going to be a registration desk. Go up and introduce yourself to the people that are running it, and you're going to register early. Then position yourself about 6 feet away from the registration desk, between the registration desk and the door that people are going into to enter the room. Just stand there and smile, and as people, they've registered, they're kind of looking around like, oh, where do I go now? What do I do? You were standing there. You probably got a name tag on. Just extend your hand and say, hi, glad you're here. And just welcome them and kind of motion them on into the room. One of the people at the registration desk, pretty soon they will ask you, they'll say, oh, do you work for the company? And all you say is, no, but I just enjoy meeting people. Is this okay if I stand here? Quite often they'll say, well, if you're going to do that, would you pass out these pamphlets? Would you help us with this? And you become part of the program. The other part of meeting people as they're coming in, you're maybe the first friendly face they've met. And later on, it makes it easy for you to go mix and mingle with them because they've already met you. You've already shaken hands with them.
Right.
So I encourage, and people feel real awkward at first, but I encourage them to do that.
How do you get over the awkwardness? Because, there's going to be a lot of people saying, I just don't know if I can do that.
It's called practice.
Yeah.
Deep breath. You see yourself doing it, and by arriving early and practicing, you can meet the first couple of people coming in. And if you're just terribly, terribly uncomfortable, then, okay. But most people, once they've met the first 3 or 4 people, they say, oh, this is kind of fun. I can do this. So it's going with your intention. Your intention is to meet people and make a positive first impression.
Okay.
And you're going to do it by smiling, making eye contact, and extending your hand and saying hi.
Well, that's terrific information. Let's we've got just a little bit of time left, and I want people to hear about your advice for small business owners on maximizing tax advantages and staying out of trouble with the IRS. Can you fill us in on that a little bit? Absolutely. Because prior to my becoming a public speaker, I either owned or was a principal in an accounting and tax practice for years. And one of the things that I hated seeing was individuals that would be referred, usually by an attorney,
they were in trouble with the IRS. They had not kept proper records and so forth. And so I love to go out and talk to small business owners, small business associations, and discuss with them, here's the type of records you need to substantiate your tax deductions, and also to use this information to run your business profitably. We want to make more money. And then here are legitimate deductions, legitimate things you can take advantage of in the tax code to help reduce your income tax while still furthering your business and helping you plan for your retirement. So I really like to talk about those issues, how to make more money, run your business successfully, and you definitely want to stay out of trouble with the IRS.
What percentage of people do you find are keeping records that could get them in trouble? Is it pretty high?
It's very high. And it's not funny. I kind of chuckle about that, but yeah, it's very high. Just yesterday, I was speaking to a group about payroll taxes and the issues there, and just listening to the questions that were coming from the audience and what people were saying, and in the conversations we had afterwards, I think, gee, there's a high percentage of individuals there that did not have adequate or proper records.
What's the most common thing that people do for not having the proper records? Is it like receipts? Is that what you mean?
Correct. They do not have that initial receipt that they can use to show what they spent and that it's spent for a business purpose. That's the initial part right there. Is they do not keep their receipt. Maybe they're just relying on their credit card statements.
Oh, uh-huh.
But you need a notation to show that the expense was incurred for business.
Right.
Andy, I can remember when I was representing a client a few years ago who I was brought in as in the IRS audit, and the auditor was looking at their bank statements. The auditor was looking at their credit card statements and said to me, Mr. Mckinsey, I have no doubt that this individual spent the money. I can see it here. What I question is, did they spend it for business purposes? And I can't allow a deduction unless they can substantiate the deduction. And this person had very few receipts to actually show that it was business related. Interesting.
Did you hear that, folks? Keep your receipts. Mucho importante.
And a little notation on it, the business purpose.
Yes. You mean, in other words, what was that used for?
Correct.
Okay. Correct. Okay, that's a good point, because you can't, as many purchases you're going to make in a year, there's no way you can remember that, probably.
No, you can't. You cannot. And especially, if the purchase is, it's just obviously it's business related, you're okay. But so many of the purchases are related to travel or entertainment, or maybe you're buying things at a store that could be business or it could be personal. You better have that receipt so you can show that the purpose was business and a notation on it.
People will buy things. Everybody knows they're using it probably for personal use, but very often they can say it's a business related thing too. Mm-hmm. If a person was going to use, let's say a business owner bought a guitar. He plays guitar, but mm-hmm. he could also use it in his business somehow, because maybe he does like advertising, promotional stuff, and he's mm-hmm. a good musician, so he records, and he may use a guitar there too. Is that doable? And how do you do that notation for something like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In that case, we're going to show how the guitar, one, the purchase price of the guitar, that establishes the beginning of our deduction. And then two, you're going to keep a record of how you use the guitar to promote your business.
Okay, so you'd have to keep a record of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Some type of a calendar, some notation, something showing that, yes, I was using the guitar and I did this and I did that, and I used it to promote my business. And so, because that's the substantiation, and it's probably going to be on someone's calendar because you're going to go someplace to play the guitar.
Okay. So, not only are you having a receipt and what it was for, now you got to go a step further and notate how you're using it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the guitar is a great example. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a very good example.
What if you bought the guitar, you bought a $3,000 guitar, you used it once for that year? Is the IRS going to accept that? And if you have it notated, just like you said?
If you bought a $3,000 guitar and you can notate why you used it, and you can truthfully say, I've used it only for the business, only for this one event, I have not used it personally, then yes, you've got your documentation, you've got your substantiation.
Okay.
You better be good, because I could see an IRS auditor raising their eyebrow and saying, "Really, you really never played this anyplace but?" However, the answer would be yes if you've got your good documentation.
Okay.
So yes, I only use it for this.
Okay, that's good to know. Very interesting. Well, Gary, thank you so much for giving us a peek of what goes on with the knowledge that you have on the mingling and the IRS tax advantage stuff and such. Now, how can people get a hold of you when they want to know more, if they want to have you come speak?
Okay. Ideally, if they contact me by email, I'll give you my email and I'll give you my phone number.
Okay.
The email is Gary, Gary, at GaryMcKinsey.com.
So that's Gary at GaryMcKinsey.com.
And I love to talk on the phone. I'm one of these people who actually pick up the phone and make a phone call. So I'll give my phone number. My number is 209-345-4230.
209-345-4230. Very good. Well, Gary, thank you so much for giving us your time. Like I said earlier, it was fascinating information, and I'm going to try your tips at mingling. I, like most Americans, or probably people around the world, have to get over that. And that's going to be useful information. And you taught me something very important about the tax stuff. I think I keep pretty good records, but it sounds like I could go a step further just to protect myself. So I appreciate that.
Very good. Well, I appreciate being on your program, having an opportunity to speak.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.